Today on Meet Your Body, I am telling you all about my own health journeys that started way back when I was 8 years old and how all of that led to where I am today. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Jessica Valant, a physical therapist and Pilates teacher, and I'm here to bring science-based knowledge, understanding, empathy, courage, support, love, and hopefully some fun to the journeys we have with our bodies. There is hope and strength in your body, and my goal is to help you find it. So my story, like so many others, probably like yours, is one I never could have predicted. I sometimes even look at my own health journeys and have to laugh because I never ever would have thought that this is where I would be and that this would be my story. So I, until recently, would not have said that my story starts when I was 8. I would have told you that my health journey started in my early 20s when I was diagnosed with endometriosis, which we will get to. But in the past 6 months, I have realized that a lot of the feelings and the things I hold in my body started when I was 8 years old. And I will tell you why. When I was 8, I started my period. I started menstruating, and if you're wondering if I knew what it was, I did not. I remember very clearly seeing something on my underwear and having no idea what it was. And I saw it again the next day and I ignored it. And I was at the doctor with my mom, and we were in the bathroom together. Just happened to be at the doctor for something different. And we were in the bathroom together. And she looked down and she happened to see, and she stopped. In my memory, the way I remember it, she just stopped and looked at me and said, "What is that?" And I said, "I don't know. It's been there for a few days. I just haven't mentioned it yet." And that was when my life, as I knew it at the time, changed. We walked into the doctor's office, and honestly, I don't remember the conversations that happened after that. What I remember is having to go to the hospital for 2 days and staying overnight, and being poked and prodded and having multiple tests done for unknown reasons. I look back and I couldn't tell you what they were trying to figure out. All I know now is that it must have been very uncommon at that time, and enough that they felt that they needed to put me in the hospital for a few days. And I was told, my last day there, I remember, I was told that I would need to go on growth hormones if I wanted to get to a normal height. I'm saying that in air quotes. And I remember practicing with a syringe on an orange because I was told I was going to need to give myself shots. And I'm going to give my parents a lot of credit right now for not letting that happen. And I have nothing against that treatment. If someone needs it, absolutely. It was not something I needed. There was no reason for it. Looking back, I know that now. So luckily I didn't do that. And I ended up at 5'4". I'm 5 feet 4 inches, so I grew just fine. But I started my period when I was 8, and there is a lot that goes on with that. And what I have realized recently is that a lot of my history and my feelings of not being safe in my body and not trusting my body started then. It started when I was 8 and I was put in the hospital for unknown reasons, for something that now I can say is very natural. Starting at 8 is not, but it's very natural. It's something that should be celebrated in girls, and it was not with me. And it was very embarrassing. I did everything in my power to hide it from all of my classmates. I was wearing huge sweatshirts, so no one could see that my chest was developing. I stayed home anytime that time of the month came. I refused to go to school. I spent multiple days in the nurse's office at school because of an anxious stomach. And I look back and I want to hug that girl, because what I learned at that time in 3rd grade was that my body was not to be trusted. My body was something to be ashamed of. My body was something to hide. My body was wrong, and it was broken. And I got through that, and my next stage did come in my very early 20s. I was in physical therapy school, and I started having unexplained back pain. And I was sitting a lot, and I was studying, and being in physical therapy school and then being a new physical therapist, I had access to a lot of things. I had an MRI. It didn't show anything. I had physical therapy myself with a wonderful therapist who eventually said, I don't see anything. Your tests don't show anything. There is nothing anatomical here. You may need to eventually look into something more systemic because I can't see anything that's causing this pain. And then I started going to the hospital. I remember waking up in the middle of the night, who's my now husband, was next to me. And I said, I think my appendix is about to rupture, because I didn't know what else it could be. I mean, it was the most pain at that time I'd ever been in. By the time we got to the hospital at 2 a.m., he was carrying me in. I could not walk. Again, test after test after test. They said, we think it's an ovarian cyst that's bursting, and they sent me home. And that happened again 6 months later. And within that time, I had a colonoscopy. Keep in mind, I was 24, I think, at the time. I had a colonoscopy. I had more ultrasounds and CAT scans than I can possibly count. I was having so much stomach pain and so much ovarian pain, and I didn't know what was going on. And eventually, I had a lovely PCP who actually called me and said, I think you might have endometriosis. And that was another turning point in my life. I remember that moment too. She called me on the phone reviewing some of my tests. Said, I think you might have this. I can't help you with it, but call your OB. Go see her. You might want to look at surgery. And I remember walking in. Google was a thing at this point, finally. I remember walking into the house and I Googled endometriosis, and I had tears running down my face because I knew in my gut that's what I had. I knew that there was an answer for what I had. Endometriosis, we will get into in future episodes, all of these diagnoses, because I want to help and I want to pass on the knowledge that I have. So we will go in depth in all of these. But for those of you listening, very surface level explanation, it cannot be diagnosed by anything except surgery. There's no test to diagnose endometriosis. So I had my very first surgery in 2005, and I remember waking up and was told, you have endometriosis. We found it. We took out what we can, but it's not curable. You're going to need to learn how to manage this, and it's probably going to be very hard for you to have kids. And they sent me on my way. And that was it. So my next lesson at this point in my early 20s was learning that movement and managing conditions are so much more than simply working out to burn calories. Like that had been my mentality to that point. I was a physical therapist, yes, so I wanted to treat injuries. I wanted to empower movement. For myself, I remember going to the gym, because I worked at a gym. I would go to the gym and be like, okay, how much do I have to work out to burn off what I ate yesterday? Or I'm going out tomorrow, so I need to work out this much today. Time at the gym was directly related to calories that I was going to burn, period. Until I woke up from that surgery in 2005. And I found out that I was going to have to manage this condition the rest of my life. It was a very unknown condition, so there was no recipe book. There was nothing out there to tell me exactly what to do. And I had wanted to be a mom my entire life. My goal was to be a mom. And I used all of those things as fuel to figure out how to manage this. So my big lesson really was that movement had more power than I had ever given it credit for. And that really started the next part of my own personal journey. During that time, I also was diagnosed with a prolactinoma. Prolactinoma is a benign tumor on your pituitary gland. We will talk about that in a future episode as well. And it was really interesting because this diagnosis was happening at the same time as my endometriosis diagnosis and surgery. So in some ways, the prolactinoma was put on the back burner. And I was told, oh, it's just something we need to monitor. It's no big deal. We'll check up in a year. During that time, that year happened. I found out I was not getting the hormones I needed because of the prolactinoma. I was at very high risk for osteoporosis later on. And all of these things I was learning because of this prolactinoma were things that I found out from doing my own research. Because again, it was put on the back burner and it was told to me it's no big deal. So here's my lesson number 3. You sometimes have to do your own research. Many times you have to do your own research because it's not necessarily going to be given to you and it's not necessarily easy to find. So fast forward a few years and we miraculously got pregnant with our daughter. 5 months of trying, being told you very well might not be able to. And we did. We got pregnant with her naturally after 5 months. It was a true miracle. So went through, had what I consider a great pregnancy. I love being pregnant. I will say it right here. I really, truly do love being pregnant. And then I had a really hard labor. It was 42 hours long, 43 hours long, somewhere in there. It was really long. And I had to push for 4 hours. And they had to use a vacuum to get her out. Unbeknownst to me, even as a physical therapist for as long as I had been, I did not know that those are the things that can cause a prolapse, amongst other things. But those are some of the most common ways a prolapse can happen after giving birth. It was about a week after I gave birth, and I was home, and I was using the little mirror, as we do, to check things out down there and see how my stitches were going. And I saw something that I did not plan on seeing, that I didn't know what it was. So you guys, I literally went to Google. Google helped me a lot on my own journey. I literally went to Google and I typed in pink golf ball hanging out of vagina. And you know what came up? Bladder prolapse. I diagnosed myself with a bladder prolapse. I went to see my doctor the very next day. He confirmed. And again, I was not given much information, which I am sure you can relate to. I was told, okay, we can look at a pessary maybe later on, and it might go away, it might not, and check back with me in 3 months. I mean, that was actually what I was told. So I had to do my own research. And while I say Google helped me a lot, I'm also the first to tell you that Dr. Google can do a lot of things that are the opposite of helpful. It can cause a lot of fear. It is full of stories that are not hopeful, that are not helpful, and we are going to continue to talk about that too, because there are times you have to leave some of those stories and some of those pages and some of those forums. You need to leave them behind and walk away and find 1 or 2 trusted sources of information. I did not necessarily have that for prolapse at the time. And so I did another thing that you absolutely should not do. I started running at 6 weeks postpartum because I was told I could. And I didn't know any different. It was my first baby. Everyone said you can do that. I had friends who were doing it, right? You don't work out for 6 weeks, then you can do whatever you want. And I was sprinting up and down my block at 6 weeks. And I'm a physical therapist. I mean, if anyone should know better, I should. But that tells you how little information there is out there to support people and especially women on their health journeys. So my prolapse, needless to say, did not go away. And I have another lesson from this time in my life, which is learning how to move safely. So I learned the importance of movement in a lifestyle management kind of way. But this was the first time I really was forced to learn how do you move safely and how do you own that? Like, yes, I'm a physical therapist. I know what movements you should and shouldn't do for this knee injury. I know what we should and shouldn't do for rotator cuff surgery. But this was the first time that I really personally experienced an injury or a dysfunction that did not have a pattern or a guide about how to work out or how not to work out, that I needed to discover for myself, that I needed to create because it was not out there. And it was also the first time that I started to share my story with others. I had a platform at that point, a small one, but I had one. I had a YouTube channel. And I don't know what made me share this story because it is embarrassing. It's embarrassing to Google golf ball hanging out of your vagina. That is embarrassing. There's a lot of shame involved with this. I understand and I have felt it all. So I don't know what made me do it, except that I think I'm one of those people that heals by talking through things. And I put my story up and I was shocked, and I continue to be shocked and also honored with all of you who reach out and share your own story and message me and say, me too, me too. Thank you. Thank you so much. No one's talking about this. I thought I was alone. So my lessons during that time were really about how to move safely for myself. How can I create this for other people? Because there is obviously a big black hole out there in medical information helping women going through these. And then also the power of sharing our stories. I also knew that we wanted another child, at least one other child, maybe more. So the prolapse for me was all about managing it. I had not even thought about surgery. It was not even an option for me. I never thought I'd have surgery for any of this. I had my first endo surgery, thought I was good to go. Then we started to try to get pregnant with our second. And we tried, and we tried, and we tried, and we tried, and decided to see a specialist, a reproductive endocrinologist, testing, and then had my second surgery for endo because we thought that might be causing the problem. So that one was about 14 years after my first. And my first one went so well, that's what I assumed would happen with the second one. And what do they say about assuming? We shouldn't assume. I woke up from my second surgery and I was really sick. I got bronchitis after my second surgery, so it was a hard recovery. And it was a week before I could go in and see the doctor for my results. I went in and I had to go by myself because my husband was at home with our young daughter. And I remember sitting in that room. And I remember he came in and he said, I don't know how you look and appear how you do on the outside due to what I found inside of you. He said, you have what we call a frozen pelvis. There is so much scar tissue inside of you. Nothing's moving. Your intestines are stuck to your abdominal wall. Your uterus is stuck. Your fallopian tubes aren't moving. IVF is your only chance at having another child. And while we were in there, we saw a suspicious growth on your liver, and I am referring you to an oncologist so they can do further testing. And I walked out, I think in shock, until I hit the parking lot when the tears came. Lots and lots and lots of tears. And I think it's the first time really in all of this that I had broken down. Even since being 8, I had not broken down. I just thought, this is what I've got. And I still feel this way. This is what I have. This is what I was born with. And that is okay. It is truly manageable. I can do this. I've got this. And I still believe this. I am so grateful for everything I have. Everything. I am so lucky. I'm one of the luckiest people out there. And I did let myself break down at that moment, though. It suddenly felt so overwhelming and so dark and so confusing and so alone. And I say that to make sure you know that those moments come. We can be unbelievably grateful for what we have. And we can know that we are so much better off than even our neighbor. Like we can know that and feel that. And it's not or, it's not but, it's and. You can also let yourself mourn sometimes what you have lost or what you don't have. You can let yourself be sad sometimes. It is okay. It's a part of healing and it's a part of the journey. And in that moment, that is what I felt. I felt sad. I felt so lost and so alone. And I called my husband from the car, bawling. I don't even know if he understood what I said. I just remember him saying, "Do I need to come get you? Can you drive?" I said, "Yes, I can drive." So we got through that time, and I remember writing a blog post about the dark times during that time because like I said, I still had bronchitis, so I was up coughing, and I would be up coughing all night, and I didn't want to wake anybody in the house up, so I would go down to the couch, and it was 2 a.m, and it was dark. It was dark, and I didn't think this time would ever end. I was Googling, oh my gosh, it's the theme of this. I was Googling growths on liver because I hadn't seen the oncologist yet. And I was letting myself go down that black hole that I told you about, which is why I got off Google at that point. And I went to the oncologist. Everything was okay. They couldn't tell me what it was, but they said it was okay. So I believed them. I said it was okay. And we started IVF. And that's another piece where I will say you never know where your journey is going to lead you. I never in a zillion, cajillion years could have told you that IVF would be a part of my story. Ever. Even with my endo, even with everything I had experienced. I did not think that was something I was going to go through. And we did. And there's a lot involved with that, which we will get into again in future episodes. I will say, I want to tell you my lesson from that time because it's one of the most important ones. And it's one I talk about with my clients all the time. I remember going through IVF and our first round failed. And so we continued to just not know what to do, be confused, be a little lost. And I was in pain. I was having pain like 21 days out of the month, just endo pain and cramping. I remember getting just one night so mad at my body. I mean, I looked down at my stomach. I'm like, why are you doing this? Why can't you be normal? Why can't you just work the way you should and be normal? That is what I said. Because that's what I felt. And then the next day, I was moving a little bit, exercising on my mat. I stood up and I felt the pain. I felt cramps. And I looked down at my stomach and I said, I am so sorry. I am so sorry that you're hurting. Are you okay? What can I do to help you? I am here for you and I want to help. What do you need? And that moment changed everything for me on how I view my body. It doesn't want to do this to me. It didn't ask to not work in certain ways. It needs me and I need it, and to fight it will be a constant life battle. Versus if I accept that we're partners, we can go through this together. And that's what we are somehow in life. I don't think we're born this way. I really don't. I think society and our culture and this diet culture and how we view people and who we put on magazines and who we think we should look like and social media, I think all of that causes us to have a disconnect with our body, to believe it is bad or it is wrong or there's always something that needs to be fixed about it. And I don't believe that's the way we're supposed to live. I believe we live in partnership with our body. And I'm not even telling you need to love it because that is hard. I know that's hard. And yes, I would love for us all to get there, but I know that is a big ask. All I'm asking to start is that we see our body as a partner and someone trying to help us. Our body's trying to help. It's not trying to hurt us. And that was my lesson during infertility and IVF. And so after one failed IVF cycle, we tried one more time. And I was 39 years old at this point. Our doctor told us we had a 10% chance of success. 10% chance of success. And we went for it. And we ended up with 3 embryos. And if you know much about IVF, you'll know that is very few. Most people have 15 to 30. We had 3. She didn't know if they were going to make it. And she said, I think your body might save them. I think it might. I don't know if they're going to survive otherwise. So I want to implant them and see what happens. And we were pregnant with twins. And then at 9 weeks, we lost one of the babies. And 9 months later, our beautiful, wonderful son was born. And he also was a miracle because that was our last chance. That was our Hail Mary last chance. And that is why I will always say I am grateful for this body. When people ask me, how can you stay hopeful? How can you stay positive with your body? I say, one, I understand it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy when you have any kind of chronic condition, autoimmune condition, any kind of trauma, anything you've gone through with your body. I know it's not easy. For me personally, my body, despite its brokenness, it gave me my babies. I can never, ever be mad at it because it worked so hard and it defied every odd to be able to do that. So that is some of how I stay positive and hopeful during all of this. So my prolapse at this point had not gotten better. It continued to get worse. And I was 40 years old. I nursed our son for 22 months. And when I was done nursing, that was the time I went to see a specialist and saw a urogynecologist and said, what would surgery look like? I'm ready for some information. And that's all I was ready for, is just information. So I went through that process, found out I actually had 3 prolapses I didn't even know about. I knew a bladder prolapse, but I also had rectal and uterine. And after a lot of soul searching and researching and asking a lot of questions, I, in November of 2019, at the age of 41, went through a hysterectomy and major prolapse repair. And that was the next step. And my lesson from there was to stop being afraid of movement, to embrace the movement I can do. And that is what I've always tried to do and believe, is I will always focus on what I can do and not what I can't. Because there's probably a lot that I can't with my history and with my prolapse history and surgeries, but I don't focus on that. I focus on what I can do. And fear is a big component that holds us back from movement when we do, again, have a chronic condition or anything shameful about our bodies. And I get that. And I was in a lot of what I believe to be post-traumatic stress after my last surgery, simply when it comes to movement, because I was so afraid of that prolapse coming back. I was so afraid that every day I would look down and see that golf ball again. And so I had to consciously work through that fear. And I continue to. 3 years later, I'm 3 years after my surgery, and I still consciously work through that. And that has been my lesson. I am now a perimenopausal woman who has had 3 major abdominal surgeries, experienced multiple prolapses, more scars on my belly than I can count. I have hormones all over the place. I have been through IVF. I continue to have endometriosis symptoms and flares. And yet, I feel strong. And yet, I feel confident. And yet, I feel sexy. And yet, I own this body that I am in. And it is a journey every day, and it is a conscious decision every day to do that. And that really has what brought me here to you, to telling this story. Because we all need that hope. We need hope. We need to believe in ourselves. We need to believe that we are not alone. And that's what I want to pass on to you as well. Because talking to you and hearing your stories makes me feel less alone. I'm so honored to be here with you. I'm so honored to hear your story. And I am absolutely honored to share mine with you. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you join us for future episodes. Again, we will dive into detail on all of these things. We will go through series about hysterectomy and prolapse and menopause and hormones and safe movement and lots of exercise and how to truly keep hope and feel strong. So thank you again for being here, and I will talk to you soon.